Okay. The perfect has one specialty. Most of the times it is used with the help of to have, haben. Ich habe meine Hausaufgaben gemacht. I have done my homework. But in the German language, you also can use to be, like you can see in the example, ich bin in die USA gefahren. I have driven into the US, maybe from Canada or Mexico. So, actually, I am in the US driven, yeah? Which sounds weird in English, makes sense in German. So let's take a look at when to use to be instead of to have. As you can see in the first example, I've marked gefahren. It's a movement from A to B. It's a further movement. It's not like dancing. I can dance on a certain spot. So ich habe getanzt, I have danced. But fahren, especially into another country, is literally, definitely a movement from A to B. So a lot of movement verbs, which by the way you will find almost completely in the attachment, at least all those movements you need in A1 and maybe even A2, they require you to use to be. If you are so lucky and have learned some French, studied some French and Spanish, they have the same thing in their past tense. Well, at least I'm sure about the French one. Je suis tombé, je suis allé, I have driven. They use I am driven. Yeah, but not in the same sense as you do. Okay, so another rule that I don't find that compelling because it's a bit confusing is whenever it's a change of state that you're describing, state of consciousness, like for example here, ist erst Mitternacht eingeschlafen, he has fallen asleep only at midnight. Your consciousness definitely changes when you fall asleep, so you have to use to be here. Or it's as sister, sorry, the baby. And a third category is other. Mein Bruder ist Vater geworden. My brother has become a father. I don't see any movement here in to become, neither do I see any change in consciousness, in my state of consciousness. So this belongs to a small group of other. Let me tell you a little story in the second part now that will help you to remember a handful of important verbs that require to be in the past tense, in the perfect past tense. So now let me tell you a little story that will help you to remember which verbs actually have to use to be in the perfect tense. Yeah? This is a story about Hamlet, who once said to be or not to be, that's the question exactly that we have here. So Hamlet is a young Danish prince, like a teenager, and you know how it is with teenagers. They are really having trouble getting out of bed. So he would just hit the snooze button when the alarm goes off, and just right after waking up for a short time, he would fall asleep again. Yeah? By the way, please imagine everything I tell you as vividly as you can. That will help you to remember the keywords in the end. Okay, so he falls asleep again, and luckily that young guy grows up, and when he grew up, a miracle happened. He became a really responsible, helpful guy. So whenever there was a problem in his parents' kingdom, he would run there and stay at the place until the problem was solved. He was also an exceptional gardener. He could bring rotten plants back to life just by his knowledge of gardening and nature. One day, though, his father went ice skating, and while the father was sliding elegantly across the ice like a world champion, he was breaking in suddenly, and unfortunately they could drag him out on time, but no, not really on time, because he froze to death shortly afterwards, so he died. But you know how it is with kings, they don't die that instantly. First they have to poke around in the castle a bit as the ghost of the castle. So he's really silently wandering through the castle like a ghost. But after years of doing that, he got bored. He got bored, and yeah, finally he ascended to heaven. Yeah, so he just decided, okay, let me leave that space here, that place. I ascend. But up there, he didn't really like it. Yeah, everything's so nice and sun is shining all day. I don't like that. I want warmth. I want darkness. So after a few billion years, there's eternity up there, he descends to the other part. And there he rested unhappily ever after. So that's a little story. You can make up your own story. It's more or less written down in the material, so you can read it also and reread it until you know the keywords. I've picked 16 keywords in this story. These are the 16 most important words that you need to know. They all require you to use to be with the perfect.